Can you explain what a stay put right is in an IEP?
Before you do that, can you explain what a WISE team is?
Oh,
wow. But at least she didn't say clip. I thought she was going to say clip placement, but she did say all the words.
Leanne's was like, wow, you really know nothing about this.
No, I was, oh wow, we have a lot to unpack.
Welcome to Spedsplaining, where special education gets decoded one case at a time. I'm Stefan, a former classroom teacher and current instructional coach, and I'm joined by three brilliant minds in special education, Darcy, Anna, and Leanne. Each week, they take real stories, often from right here in Washington, and break them down into plain language. We use these stories as a launch pad to explore the wild, wonderful, and sometimes frustrating world of general and special education. Whether you're an educator, parent, advocate, or just curious about how the system really works, we've got you. Let's dive in.
Okay, this case is actually coming from a listener request. Thanks, Steve. Steve asked us for this one.
Do we need to edit out his name, or can we use his
No,
full
I don't know. I think
government
Steve would
name?
be excited.
Yeah, it's
Don't
his
you-
first
Yeah,
name.
do you shout him out, Steve? Hi.
Oh, both names.
Hi, Steve.
Oh,
Okay, you can edit that part out.
Steve requested a case in conversation around partial choice, like parent choice in services. So couldn't really find a recent one in Washington. So this one's coming from Massachusetts. The ones that I found in Washington were all like I was in high school. So I thought that was too far long ago for us to cover that case. Okay, so this student has Down syndrome, moderate intellectual disability, and a pretty complex medical profile. This included several things like an ileostomy bag. Do you guys know what that one is? I hadn't heard of it. I looked it up. So colonoscopy bag collects from the large intestines, and an ileostomy bag collects from the small intestine. So it changes the consistency of what's collected, which can lead to more infections. I read. And then skin breakdown, fungal infections, a lot of medical stuff going on. So at the time of the case, the student is 20. But we'll start a little bit before that. But sounds like super happy young man, really sociable, loves horseback riding, participates in Special Olympics. Sounds like just a kid that everybody loves, not kid. Young adult that everybody loves. Prior to starting in this school district, the student was in a residential placement on a state agency placement. So a state agency made the placement rather than district saying, we can't serve you, here's your residential placement. So my understanding, my takeaway from that is it's not necessarily district's responsibility since it wasn't a district placement.
Yeah, so like DSHS said, this young adult needs to go over here. I also wonder what happened with his guardianship.
Well, at the time he was in the placement was like early teen age years.
Okay.
And then that placement ended when the student was around 16 or 17. The case didn't go into detail as to why, but it did say to no fault of the student.
Interesting.
So no other residential placements were available. So the district was creating an in-district program that included home services. At this first time, parents partially accepted the IEP while continuing to assert the student's stay put right to residential placement and certain services from one IEP to the next.
So this would be like in our state, if a WISE team said, we need to place this child in a children's long-term inpatient placement. They take essentially custody of that child over the school district and say, this is where they're going and this is why. And we determine when they stay and when they leave. So this kid, whether the facility shut down or whether he graduated or his behavior or medical stuff became more manageable than the placement said, now he needs to go back to public education.
Yes. Can you explain what a stay put right is in an IEP?
Before you do that, can you explain what a WISE team is?
Oh.
Oh, wow.
But
At least she didn't say clip. I thought she was going to say
I
clip
thought you
placement,
were-
but she did say all the words.
Leanne's wow was like, wow, you really know nothing about this.
No, it was, oh, wow, we have a lot to unpack in our little, this is not accessible to all listeners.
That's the point. That's the point. This is great.
So
Right.
WISE placement stands for Wraparound Intensive Services. So it's kind of comes out of like community health organizations, and they have a case manager and a peer mentor and a parent mentor, and are supposed to be setting up systems and trainings and like support for this kid on an individualized level. So each WISE team has a caseload, and they support kids in their communities. I think they're run by counties-ish.
Yes.
And can support school and home a little bit.
So it's WIS, not WISE.
The E is lowercase. So it is WISE, but
Where's the E coming from? You said wraparound intensive services.
Like
SE?
services, like
that's why the E
SE.
is lowercase.
They
They should
only
have talked
did
to us
that.
about acronyms.
Okay, WIS, lowercase e, wraparound intensive services. That makes sense to me. Leanne, you also said at least you didn't say clip. I have actually heard that before. Could not tell you what it is. What's clip?
Yeah, you've heard it from me, I'm sure, because I've had a lot of kids come from club placements.
You kind of
Clip.
already heard it because Darcy did say all the letters, or, you know, what they stood for.
Children's Long-Term Inpatient Program. I don't think you need to write that down. None of that has anything to do with this case.
But he's learning. He's
I
a
am.
global
I was
Do
gonna
not
say-
criticize my learning
apologize.
process.
Sorry.
See, now I already forgot what it was. Children's long-term. If I had written it down, I'd be able to tell you. Children's long-term implementation.
Inpatient program.
Okay, gotcha. Good. And so these are all services that are meant that like potentially within the community that are meant to support families of students with severe disabilities and like intensive needs, right?
And mental health.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
more mental health.
It looks more like a hospitalization than what we would think of as a residential placement.
Okay. And just to draw a line back, Darcy, you were just making a connection in your head when you said WISE team. You're like, since this is in Massachusetts, they're going through this. You're kind of like, this might look like X, Y, and Z in Washington. That's where that. Okay.
Yeah.
Feeling good.
Okay, now can someone explain a stay put right to residential placement?
Yeah, Leon's got that one.
I mean, you continue the IEP as best as you can while you're reevaluating or
No.
making decisions as a team.
I know this.
Good.
Leanne,
Oh,
you
you
did
know.
a case where there was this IEP of a kid who was living in California and they came and they moved to Washington
True.
and they
Oh
put
my
a
gosh.
stay put on there. And it was essentially, like we're good with the IEP as is while we learn more about the kid. We get them settled, knowing that down the road, we need to revisit the IEP because that's what's required of us and that's best practice. But like a stay put is like, we're officially saying we're cool with the IEP and the services right now until we get ourselves figured out. Yeah.
Yes, and it happens a lot during due process. So it's
But what
a
I find really
important term.
interesting about this case is they are asserting a stay put coming from a residential now to an in-district placement. So
was the due process
20
already happening?
no. So
Okay.
a 24-hour round-the-clock care program, including all those medical services, family is saying we have a right to stay put in what services his IEP is saying, even though we're no longer on a round-the-clock 24-hour care program.
And I think stay put is like, let's talk about the language that Stefan was using, was that, yeah, we get 30 days. We don't call that necessarily stay put, right? Like we get that grace period of 30 days to get to know the kid, do the best we can with the services. Stay put in the sense of a term of due process is that if I, as a parent, file due process against the school can't say, because let's say the due process is about a change of placement, which often it is. The school then can't say, well, we're moving forward with the change of placement. We don't care. The court goes, this child's in a stay put situation. You can't move them until this due process is over. So it is kind of confusing because they're using due process language, but they haven't filed the due process. And there's no way the district, without sending the kid right back to the facility, can do. And the school district can't really, typically, I can't send, as a school district, a kid back to a private facility that's managed and paid from the healthcare system. Our kids don't have access to those. We place them differently in public ed.
So what happens is the parents are saying, no, we're not going to fully accept this IEP. For the rest of the students' enrollment in district, they are not satisfied with any placement, and they keep coming back to the table because of medical issues and things like that. A lot of the services are canceled, and this is over about a 2 school year time frame. Absences had always been kind of chronic due to medical appointments, procedures, surgeries. He had hundreds of outpatient medical appointments that were documented, a couple hospitalizations as well. There were also things where the staff felt unsafe working on some goals. So like one of the IEP goals was demonstrating privacy skills, so public versus private actions and redirecting some of those behaviors. They had at least one instance where a provider failed to do a medical procedure, but the parents asked her to leave. Pretty quickly, they found a new person to fill that slot. But, there were some missteps in services and actually being able to implement the things that they found. The district was alleging that any services that were canceled by the providers were made up prior to the due process being filed, but families disagreed. So initially, when they had come back from the district, parents had said, like, we understand a residential placement isn't available, but then you guys as a district are responsible for creating an in-home school program that approximates those services of a residential, including overnight hours due to those medical issues. And the district did not disagree.
What?
What?
That is not educational. I think we might be getting into, that's scary. Okay.
So they did decline to replicate a residential model fully, including like round the clock, but they agreed to ABA and extensive medical support. So he was getting longer than a full school day's worth of educational services. The district had kind of an extended day service that they wanted to put him in. They offered to do an IEE. Stefan, do you remember what an IEE is?
Independent education evaluation. Is it that the right order? Dude, I'm 2 for 2.
So humble about it as well. So they did an IEE with an ABA clinic to do a home assessment to see like what should our home services look like rather than having their school-based providers determine that. That obviously said that home and community services were warranted. The district found, though, that they didn't really like the IEE, that it wasn't very specific. But then they looked at other data sources, which determined, again, that home and community services should be offered, but they gave less than was recommended in the IEE. They also implemented several other recommendations from it. So they didn't like totally discount the IEE, but only took kind of pieces of it. So
that's good. They should consider all of it, but then take the pieces out that work for their setting.
And they independently were like, hey, this is a really complex case. We need help, right? Like they knew that they didn't have all of the things needed And so I thought that was awesome to hear that the district was independently like, wow, this is a lot. Let's get some help to support your kid. So they wanted to do that extended day program, which really was focusing on functional skills and community-based instruction. Family did not want that. They said that he needed more support in home and that he should stay in home for services.
Did they talk about what at-home services looked like?
Largely medical.
Mm-hmm.
And who was doing it?
It didn't go super into that. It talked about like they were contracting the ABA providers, which is why some were like, no, I'm not trained and I'm not like I shouldn't be doing some of these medical things like changing that colonoscopy bag and things like that. That's not within my scope. And so family felt like they didn't have the right people was my interpretation of it. Like the right people aren't servicing. And then they also were contracting with like a private clinic for some of that medical stuff, which then family felt like, well, these people don't have the right behavioral training to be working with our kid. So there was a little bit, I shouldn't say a little bit, there was a pretty big rep in who the people were, not only what the services were.
Is that typical for a school district to provide like medical services like that? And I guess I heard Leanne say that's not educational when we're all like, they didn't disagree. That seems crazy.
Yeah.
They're not medical providers, right?
Not solely usually. In my experience, like you would maybe have a home health person there doing like the really intensive medical care. And then you'd have a school staff member doing some IEP goal work and educational, doing some teaching. But you wouldn't be there responsible for everything all by yourself as a school person. That's just, this student sounds like, super medically fragile. And that's just a lot for anybody to take on outside of the school district. You're sending probably 2 people there every time because you don't want to send a provider by themselves. And yeah, so to have that extend beyond the school hours is just the part that kind of blew my mind, because I wouldn't even think this would look like a whole day program. Student like that would probably be sleeping a lot, not able to necessarily attend to an 8-hour day or a 6-hour day or so.
Yeah. And
but
I think,
yeah.
Yeah, I think that medical piece also is, think of it as an accommodation. Because when the child's at school or during the day, like we have an obligation to take care of those medical pieces. And I think that's where like my reaction to that was, why would I, as a school district, be saying I'd be willing to do the medical pieces outside of that school day? And what does that, like, is there an opportunity in the extended day to teach the kid how to change his own bag? I don't know, right? But like those would be the things I would be thinking about. Like that's on the teaching end of it. So it would make sense to send maybe 2 people, like this is how you change it and we're practicing and those sort of things. But I don't know if that was the situation.
Yeah.
There's also limitations to what a school nurse would be authorized to do. So there's probably care involved that would be outside of the scope of a school nurse.
Well, it makes me think a little bit of just like bleeding heart. Like everyone loves this kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not your one that staff are saying, how do I get him out of my class? Like this is a kid that they are all like, oh, he's just the best. And so I'm sure there's a little bit more of stuffing in some of these people of like wanting just to do what's best rather than sticking by our regulations.
She meant that as a compliment, by the way.
I did mean that.
It does make me think of the episode we did a while back about, was it transportation as a related service? Where
the price of that when Stefan was like, oh, we could just go on field trips.
No, that was the other one. I was thinking the one where like the kid lived just out of boundaries, and I was like, just, if it's not that far, how hard is this? Common sense. And Darcy was going, very few things are black and white. This one is black and white. It's literally a line on a map, and you don't cross that. It's kind of an easy win, And so I wonder if there's a little bit of this, maybe that bleeding heart piece. Cause all right, you got me. I am thinking, well, if this kid needs it, he's not in this residential facility anymore, and he's going to be suffering or not getting the same amount of care, and the school can provide that. I can see how they dip their toe into it and how they would say, yeah, let's make it work because we're going to work with this family. But it also seems, I don't know, like way outside of what's required, and seems like it might take a ton of human capital as well, which is a bit of an issue.
So school, like Darcy was saying, is there capacity in this extended day program to work on some of that independence? And that was exactly what school wanted to do. They finally got, after about a year back and forth, got family to agree to sending him to that program. They found that he made a ton of progress, especially in social skills and independence, which were supporting his transition goals. After reviewing that progress, they said that they had in-district programs that were less restrictive and therefore more appropriate than the residential or in-home placements. So they wanted to take that stay put out of his IEP and increase ties into their district programming. However, family denied that and said they needed, again, more aggressive interventions. They went back and forth asking for more contracted ABA time, changes in goals. One of the lines said something about like parents accepted in-home services for goal number 17, but once again rejected the language. It was just, I was like 17, like they were, not agreeing on a lot of things. And 7, for your reference, 17 goals is a lot.
Okay.
That is a lot of goals.
Someone say too many.
Who would those people be?
Progress monitoring that many goals is very
anyone in
tough.
special ed.
Oh, I guess that's a good point. Like progress monitoring all those goals. Like you, if you're writing the goal, you got to collect data on them. We've seen problems with that in the past. If you had to guess, average amount of goals in IEP 3, 4, 5.
I mean, 1 per service area at least. But so
17.
I'm assuming this student qualifies for 7 areas or so, but that's really overkill.
Okay.
Having 17.
That you're not working on 20,000 things. It's just what you're progress monitoring.
Yeah, that's exactly what I tell teachers when we identify priority standards. Look at this. We're in my world now. So you're still teaching to all of the standards, but you're super intense with those ones you identify as your essential standards. That makes sense to me. It also, just wildly speculating here, also makes sense to me that as a school district tries to put more pressure on integrating services, bringing them into this other program, that the family would be pushing back on that because they're getting a lot at home. It's probably going to be a hardship on the family, right? Would that be like I
think it'd be a little bit easier.
Oh.
Because he's not in your care at school. Like, I think the trust that's a big load that you're trusting the school to take care of your kid that has a lot of needs. But as a parent, like, you get to think about how sometimes we let Kylan our son stay at daycare until 4:45 because we're like, oh man, just 15 more minutes before chaos hits the home.
Cut all that out. No, I gotcha.
The just energy of having a child with so many intensive needs. But on the flip side of that, though, the trust and care that you are your most precious thing in the world to you, you're now having to let someone else have. I imagine that is a very challenging.
Scary to give up that control. Okay. Thank you for that context.
We are very hesitant, though, to put our resources outside of the school district, because if you do that for multiple children, you can see how that would start to be impossible to maintain. So what was the reasoning for them not being able to come to the school? Was it just that they didn't agree with it, or was there more to it medically? Or
it sounded like they just didn't agree to it. They went through tons of back and forth meetings and several unsuccessful mediations. So they had mediated IEP meetings that were deemed unsuccessful.
And the district did not, but this is where they could have been a little bit more like, we are offering FAPE and it's at the school. But it sounds like they gave in quite a bit, or the judge said we're in stay put still.
Yeah, okay, so they are working off an IEP. So this student came to their district in June of school year, I think when they're 16. And then this is now fall of not the next school year, but a school year later. So that we're on like the second school year. And they still have never agreed on placement or goals. And so they're still,
I don't think I've heard of 2 years of stay put. Have you, Darcy?
And they're still working off of this first IEP.
Oh, they still have the same IEP?
Correct.
Because they're going off of stay put, which is not a thing?
Yes. So the last proposed IEP that parents have been given, now we're again fall of a year and a half later, was 46 pages. And the parents responded with a 13-page letter, partially accepting and partially rejecting that proposed IEP.
Whoa.
So at this point, as a director, what do you do? What would you recommend doing?
Well, I think this district has gone above and beyond. I think they super care about this kid, and the family's extremely nervous about having them in anybody else's care. This family has probably not worked because of it and has devoted all of their time to doctor appointments and learning all the intricacies of what keeps this kid out of the hospital and alive and healthy as he can be. So as a director, I would be saying we're at the end of the road of being able to maintain these services. And I'm sorry you agree, but we have a FAPE obligation. The data says he's doing really well in this setting, and that's the setting we're recommending. And know your child's going to be in really good care, and we care about him a lot.
And then we'll adjust if it's not working. That's the thing. Sometimes families think that once the IEP changes, it can never change back. And that's not true.
And as so parent says, no, we don't like that. Like, we're still not in agreement, or still, like, in this case, partially agreeing to, like, sure, we like this change, but now we found change number goal 17 that we don't like anymore.
I think they played that game too long. I think I feel bad for the situation. I know emotionally how they get there. And if I was backed into that corner, I would say if the district stance is this, then we'll take you to due process if you're unhappy with the placement.
I mean, so stay put happens when a dispute is initiated, right? And then it's
now they get stay put.
Right. And it's not done until it's finalized. So, but it just seems like the judge would have had this wrap up sooner than it has. I don't know. Like, I would hope that somebody would have said.
Nobody still has filed for due process. Like, this is still the due process.
Then that's not really stay put anymore, people. That is just you making a handshake deal, I'm pretty sure. Legally.
Yeah, and I think I might get to the place trying to maintain some of that in regards to, like, a 13-page response is I have a massive manpower issue, right? Yeah. Like, I have someone who's taking time away from your child to answer that you don't like the language in goal 17. Right? Like, this isn't reasonable, and this isn't what's best for kids, and it's not it. And as director and team, we need to be able to say, and this isn't what's best for your kid.
So,
well, and at that point, you have so much data, you're just saying, go. I mean, yes, this is going to go to due process, and we're okay with that because we've still got to make some decisions.
I also
The-
think the director probably first thing called the placement and said, can I pay for a spot to keep this kid there because he's
Probably.
doing really
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I'm calling my shot here real quick. Anna's got this look on her face like she's got something up her sleeve.
You're gonna not like this. So that winter, they do another IEE. District offered to do another IEE. Their state regulation upon receiving a completed IEE is that they must convene a team meeting within 10 school days. Do we have that regulation in Washington?
Wow, that's fast.
No.
And district didn't do that. They didn't convene a meeting after this second.
Oh, you don't want
At
to make
all, or
procedural
was it
I was
errors.
going to say,
ridiculous? Dang.
So now they've messed up and family filed for due process because now they've made that
Oh.
procedural error.
They're getting them on a technicality, right? That's essentially what that is. Oh, no.
So
Yeah, but
I
that's
mean-
not a substantive denial of FAPE. So I don't think they're sitting too bad yet.
So through that process, parents said that the services provided that and ones that are outlined or in all of these draft IEPs are not addressing his education. They talked about a denial of FAPE and that all of those things are leading to an inability to make effective progress. They cited poor collaboration between school staff and home service providers and that the in-home services have not been meaningful. So parents asked for 40 or more hours of documented formal in-service ABA training or graduate level courses in that area for any providers that are working in the home. They requested...
Can you say that again? This was their remedy request?
Yes. They wanted any in-home service providers to have at least 40 hours of documented formal in-service ABA training or would accept graduate level courses in ABA.
That's how I got trained in ABA, by the way, was a due process outcome like that.
Oh.
Is it?
Yep. Really? Yeah. I got sent to California to be trained because that was the ruling that the SLP would have to have ABA training.
Huh.
They also requested increased one-on-one services with the BCBA and increased
more than all day and extended day. More than that, just out of curiosity, did it clarify?
Well, I'm sure that they probably had an RBT working more one-on-one with a kid. Typically a BCBA isn't one-on-one, they are just supervising. So they requested one-on-one work with BCBA, increased time with an RBT, and increased BCBA consultation and direct supervision of the RBT. They also asked for comp ed beyond the student's 22nd birthday in the form of ABA for self-advocacy and self-care. What do you guys think the court said?
There's no way they get that. There's got to be no. They have done so much for this family from, I guess, from a layman's perspective. It just seems like they've just gone so above and beyond. And then the only thing that brought them to a due process was not hitting a 10-day window. I don't know.
I definitely understand what they're saying with the staff that was serving this student in the home. There wasn't good training for them or support for them. That is hard. It's really hard to make sure that what's happening off of your campus is what you want it to look like. And often when we're hiring I'm sure they had to hire these people. It's not like they had those team members on staff. And what kind of training was provided? I could see that not being the best IEP service. But I don't know.
You were doing a lot of
lost
contracting. It wasn't all school district staff. They were utilizing an ABA clinic for a lot of that ABA work.
That's just really hard to stand by as a district. I think they lost, though.
Oh. Darcy break the tie. Wait, who's they? District lost?
The district.
All right.
And not because of the 10 days, I hope. I mean, maybe, but
Yeah, I think we're going to have a technical finding, which is probably going to lead to some training or something. But I don't know that that was child specific. So, what state was this in? Did you say?
Massachusetts.
So I think the judge is going to say that there was some loss of faith based on those providers and who they contracted with. And there's going to be a little bit of comp ed. I don't think they're going to agree to the request around the master's level and stuff. I think they're going to say that the district needs to find school staff that are eligible to do that based under an ESA or whatever the state requirement is, according to their regulations. So I'm going split.
All right.
yeah, I mean, this wasn't Washington. That does change things.
Yeah,
for
it
me
does
a little
change
bit.
things.
But Massachusetts isn't that different. Like, I mean, I don't think they should lose. So let me be honest. But I feel like maybe there's other, like, we don't know what was the goal progress monitoring looking like. That part's the piece that I worry about.
Massachusetts is the only state in our country that has a residential facility that uses electric shock on kids still.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's not
Yes.
similar to Washington. Sorry, didn't know. New information for me and
Material
Steph and I bet.
change. I don't know enough to change my opinion.
We don't get to send our students to Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was very fortunate.
Okay.
The year that our ESD sent us to our national conference, that was after COVID, right? I told Darcy, I was like, I'm not going because the ABAI supports the JRC and I will not go to that. And Darcy was like, okay, chill out. We'll send you to something else.
Yikes. Okay, that's new information.
So overall, the courts ruled solely in favor of the district. The judge found that while services sure weren't perfect, the student was making effective progress and they had a lot of documentation to prove that. The IHO noted that parents' ongoing refusal to consent to services, providing scheduling challenges and medical interruptions were contributing to the missed hours, that the district was doing what they could to make everything up. So nothing was provided to family or student.
Oh, I'm so happy because
I'm so
sometimes
happy
schools
about
go.
that.
I know schools go above and beyond and then they still lose. I just feel like I'm going to cry when that happens. And they did. They went above and beyond. And I'm so happy that they didn't get, in trouble for being good people.
That might
Trying
be
their best.
the first case we've covered that like the district wasn't dinged with something. Wow.
If they were, I didn't find it.
Don't go digging too deep. Let's
We're
just
going to
live
have
in
to
this
be done
moment.
today.
I'm
This
gonna
is
leave
one
on
we
that.
have to- we
We're
have to
gonna leave
end.
on a high note. I thought this
So-
case was really interesting though, in terms of like parent requests and the part that plays within like the team discussions, especially when a student is making progress. And I know that like we talk a little bit about that with Andrew, but the fact that family kept saying like that partial acceptance of services and determining what's best, quote unquote, best for a kid is such a hard one sometimes, especially with really complex cases.
Well, and to your point, Lynn, you said we don't know what documentation looks like. I think they're not getting that ruling without proper documentation, right? Like that means they probably had their ducks in a
Right.
row. Potentially the only slip up they had was not hitting that 10-day window, which you said it was in December, right? They did the IE in December. So
Winter, so it might have been January.
can be a messy time of year, right? In Massachusetts, like those northeastern winters might get a little bit, it's just kind of a strange time anyways for education. So I don't know. Seems like they maybe had their ducks in a row, were doing everything they could for that family, and then were, I'm not gonna say rewarded for it, vindicated for it, maybe.
Yeah, my takeaway on that is I think the district spent too long doing all the things and kind of placating that. And I think after 2 years, if I'm getting a 13-page email that says, I don't like the wording on page 27, whatever goal, like I potentially trained them to be bad partners, right? As like families, like, and they could be attorneys for all we know, right? Like they're just going to like tick away. But at the same time, you don't respond to a 13-page email with, we agree to this, we don't agree to this, we agree to this. And then the district responds and then they have a 47-page email. Like that's not the collaborative way. And I feel like they let that go on for a really long time.
I agree. That would be my takeaway too, is don't lay out, stay in this indecisive space for that long. Like, be a team that makes a really reasonable offer of FAPE and stand by it. Be responsive to parents, but not so much that you are going through every word in the IEP and having, sometimes these drafts can go back and forth for a really long time. And it really does ultimately hurt the child when you can't, as adults, figure out what a program should look like and start working together.
Thanks for tuning into Spedsplaining. If you have questions or thoughts about today's episode, we would love to hear from you. Head over to our links in the show notes where you can drop your questions, join the conversations, and connect with us. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode if you found it helpful. Until next time, keep learning.